Hey guys, Kanye here. Welcome back to Light Fuse. Talking about Loki, but first, just so you know, I've not run out of clothes.
Lies.
Still, but I needed to see how much weight I'd gained, and nothing shows you how much weight you've gained than seeing than wearing the suit you wore in November to your friend's wedding. Anyway, Loki, I'm just gonna wrap up the entire season. I'm not gonna go through 4, 5, and 6 separately. Just gonna share my thoughts because I'm sure you've already seen plenty of videos or communique from the various interwebs about about the other episodes of Loki. Okay. Episodes 4 and 5, I absolutely loved what was happening. Absolutely loved the build-up. Absolutely loved the interaction between Loki and Sylvie. Well, not necessarily between Loki and Sylvie, because I'd said before that I didn't think Loki and Sylvie should be a couple. I didn't think they would be a couple because of the weird nature of it. And the creators of the series decided to go there, which was weird. But they went there. And I didn't necessarily like it. I know there are a lot of people who are, I think they call themselves Loki stands. I don't know what they, low V's. I don't know, whatever they call them. They're a big fan of that couple. And okay, you got what you wanted, but I didn't necessarily like it. Whatever. But I did like the continuing relationship and the tension between Mobius and Loki as he discovers what's actually going on behind the scenes in the TVA. I like that the tension was building and Mobius was starting to see that not everything that he believed in was necessarily true. Then things got more tense as Renslayer started to figure out that, so we started to see that Renslayer was actually involved in manipulating the situation. That happened, that was beautiful. Well, not beautiful, but that was fine. I really enjoyed that. Fast forward to episodes 5 where Loki meets his other variants because he's now been pruned, and we realize that pruning isn't actually pruning. It just takes you and puts you into this end of the timeline where there's a big creature that swallows everything and can reduce everything, because according to science, matter cannot be destroyed, energy cannot be destroyed, but it can be transferred from one form to another. And that's essentially what they're trying to show you, is that only alive can technically destroy things. Then we get into a situation where we start to discover all these other variants of Loki. And we see that of all the people who get stuck at the end of time, or in this specific place, in this void, only Loki survive. And it's a hint, and it's a further underlining of the point that Lokis were designed to survive. And I really liked that was going on very well. And I liked the further highlighting of the relationship between Loki and Sylvie, and we're seeing this development of their relationship and their trust with each other. And I was really enjoying that. And we get to see some very great character works from classic Loki. Kid Loki it was okay. He's a child actor, so I wasn't expecting much. I wasn't expecting that mischievous Loki from Kid Loki from the comic books, but it was okay. And Bows for Loki was great. President Loki was a nice cameo. I know a lot of people were expecting President Loki to actually be a full-fledged character, something or path that Loki himself took. But it was fine. It wasn't the point, because the story was Loki and Sylvie and Loki and Mobius. That's essentially been the core of what we've been looking at. Those three's relationship and also their interaction with the TVA. Fast forward to them trying to find a way out of the void, and Sylvie discovers that she can charm alive, or the beast that eats everything. So they managed to do that with the help of classic Loki, who unfortunately perishes. And then we jump forward to the last finale where we discover the Citadel. the places that exist outside of time. Now, at this point, I'm like, okay, I kind of know, I kind of suspect that there's only two people that we could be getting here. It could be, I was on the fence of thinking it was Kang or Doctor Doom. That's who I was thinking. If not Kang or Doctor Doom, the other one I was thinking about was, what's her name? The magician from, who's also been an enemy of Doctor Doom. Ugh, I forgot her name. I think it starts with an M. Although whenever I say something starts with that letter, I don't always get it wrong, but whatever. But I suspected her. And it then turns out that actually no, it's again another situation where the MCU, or in this case now the MCM, has fused two characters. He Who Remains and Kang get fused into this sort of amalgamation of a character. And I think it's starting to turn into a sort of a trend with Marvel, where they realize that there's so many characters in the Marvel universe that they can choose from. But in order to get through the entire storytelling of what the Marvel universe has been doing since the 60s or the 50s with comics, you don't have the time to flesh out each and every single character. So it's sometimes best to blend some characters in to create a new character so you can accelerate the process along. Fair enough, no problem. And then things move forward and they meet Kang, or the One Who Remains, and he gives his exposition, his big speech, and we find the big center core conflict. Should they take over his position, or should they kill him and possibly release timelines so that a possible variant of him can come through? And Loki's of one opinion, Sylvie's of another. And this is where I think the series kind of started losing me, because at this point we've been developing them together since episode 2, I think, last parts of episode 2 and most of episode 3, that there's a relationship going on. There's something there between the two of them, and there's a strong bond that's developed. In the frame of time, it's probably been just like about a few days, time has passed. So you can't necessarily put your entire life's trust on someone, I get that. But I also wasn't happy with the fact that they forced, I don't want to say they forced, there's a conflict now that is created between Loki and Sylvie because as they keep highlighting, and this is also part of my frustration, they kept telling us these things instead of just showing us. They kept telling us that Sylvie can't trust anyone and Loki is untrustworthy. So this was part of my frustration, that the story isn't moving along, the story isn't unfolding. We're being told the story, and I didn't understand why they were doing it this way, especially because none of us were, I think they were expecting that when we saw Kang, we'd all be like, oh, wow, it's Kang. A lot of people don't know who Kang is. Secondly, a lot of people who didn't know were expecting it anyway, so it wasn't much of a surprise. So it was either not a surprise or it was an expectation. It was more like, oh, okay, tick box. And then they finally resolve their conflicts, and the relationship between Sylvie and Loki gets terminated, basically because Sylvie doesn't trust Loki, and she believes he's going to try and take over the universe and control everything. Even though time and time again, especially in this episode, Loki proves himself that he's actually trying to do the best for her. And again, this is part of the thing that kind of lost me. As much as we see the chemistry from Loki's side, I thought we were seeing chemistry from Sylvie's side as well. So for Sylvie to then turn around and not trust her own heart and instead trust, I think, her own judgments, and decide to kill the One Who Remains, Kang, whatever his name, whoever he is in this version, kind of was like, for me, a direction in the story that didn't feel like it served the story itself, but it served the multiverse scenario. And for me, this is what I really wanted to talk about. Marvel kind of missed this finale.
You need to leave! It's disgusting! watch out. I am warning you.
Marvel kind of messed with this finale. Marvel kind of missed because the bigger narrative of the MCU, or now I think it's called the MCM, Marvel Cinematic Multiverse, reached down and affected the story in a big way. Before, in WandaVision, the story of WandaVision was complete and solid and solidified, and we got to see the starts of the story, the middle of the story, the conflicts in the story, the end of the story, the building of the characters. Everything in WandaVision was a full-fledged story. It was well told, well executed, and then we got hints of its tie-ins to the multiverse. Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well, even though I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of that, I think it was an okay series. It didn't move me as much. Even there, we got a story there as well. The conflicts, the beginnings of it, the growth of the characters, the resolutions of those conflicts, partial resolutions, and the tie-ins to the MCU. We got that. Here, I feel like with Loki, it was sort of developing in that way, and it seemed like it was going in that way. And then at the end, they decided, well, rush things through, finish this quickly, all because we wanted to see the timeline split. And as a Marvel fan, I absolutely love what we're going to get. I absolutely love the tie-ins we're going to get. I absolutely love the journey that the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse is going to take. But I feel like it was at the cost of resolving the story of Loki. Like, maybe if I go back and watch it again, the finale, then I might be able to say, okay, maybe I'm just being salty because I want a certain outcome. But the point is that here with Loki, it really felt to me like we missed out on something that was happening, something that we could have gotten, all because it was serving the greater narrative of the Marvel universe, multiverse. And that's why I feel like in terms of series ranking, it's still WandaVision number one. I think WandaVision will always be one of the best things that Marvel has done for me. Loki, I think, is still number two, and then Falcon and the Winter Soldier behind. Not necessarily because there's anything wrong with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but necessarily because it's not the kind of pace that I would have liked. I feel like Captain America Winter Soldier is the best version of what they were trying to do here. But anyway, I'm not talking about them so much. All I want to say is that I feel like this is the first miss in a long time for me that the Marvel Studios has made, and this is all because I feel like they're rushing in pursuit of this multiverse story rather than telling the stories as they fit within the multiverse. And I'm a big fan of good stories, good characters, and that sort of thing, which is why I feel like the way I feel about this. I know a lot of people are happy with what happened. A lot of people are okay with the situation. They have no problems and qualms with how things ended. And a lot of people are quoting at a 10 out of 10. I hear you. I can see how you would see it as a 10 out of 10. But for me, the story of Loki just wasn't done quite properly, especially because of the build-up that they were creating, especially because of the things that they'd set down before for us. The fact that we're getting a season 2 is good, but I still feel like even at the end of the first season of a show, it's supposed to be, you can have a cliffhanger, yes, but there's supposed to be some things that are resolved, some questions that are answered. And I really feel like that at the end of Loki, we were left with a lot more questions and answers, and more questions than we needed. Like, I mean, there's so many things that they threw in there at the end that a lot of people, even who aren't necessarily fans or who know the Marvel universe, would probably be going like, okay, what's that about? What is that about? I mean, in the system itself, there's so many Easter eggs and things that were thrown in there that you're just like, but what does that all mean? Why aren't we being told what's going on? And I think that's the big failure for me. That there's so much that they could have said. And the thing is, like, WandaVision was 10 episodes. magnanimous of them, especially because we were only getting one season. Why couldn't you just add an extra episode to tell some of these things? I mean, it's not like we're just going to compare like, oh, WandaVision was 10 episodes, Falcon and the Mission episode was 6. Why is Loki 7? We'll be happy. Give us more. Give us some more Marvel stuff. We'll watch it. No one's complaining about the number of things, unless there's a studio exec somewhere sitting in his big office thinking, no, this is how many you're supposed to have because of ABCDE.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
Then that's the reason. But then that's part of the problem, is that a decision from higher up affected the story and the full development of that story. And that I feel is a problem. So for me, Loki was good. Loki was definitely very good, and I just wish we weren't more serving the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse story than we were serving the story of Loki. I just wish we had more, and I think that's essentially my biggest gripe with this series at the end, is that I wish we had more. Maybe we'll get more of it in season 2, but anyway, that ends my talk on Loki. I need to get out of this because it is extremely tight and I do not want to break these pants. So yeah.